Good evening, everyone. Let's jump right into collectively rewilding. All right, here we are in collectively rewilding, and we're just going to dive right in before everybody even gets here because we have to get everything covered during this half hour as I'm trying to get outside and do my last round of planting. And so we'll see if I have enough light when our session is over tonight. All right, so here we are in Collectively Rewilding. There's been new activity since I was last on this page, so I'm just gonna click that happy little button. And tonight's session is an open Q&A session. I have a few things I'll share with you guys just to get the ball rolling. I have an area over here on the easterly side of the property that's almost in constant shade. It does get some direct sunlight for maybe an hour or two at most in the summer. And I have this wildflower blend that's for a shade area. There's actually two companies that make a very, I think it might even be exactly the same. I did look it over. I think it was exactly the same. And so one is American Seed Company, and you can get these generally at the Dollar Tree. And this is Fairy Morse, which you'll see in many, many places that sell seeds. I did want to get some more seed mixes from American Seed after they quit stocking them at Dollar Tree. So I did some research and found them online. It was pretty simple. Found their offerings, and they had an additional mix, a deer resistant mix. And so I have that out in the front side yard that's on the westerly side of the property. And they couldn't tell me what was in the mix. They're still doing some research, so I'll let you guys know. It did have an additional piece that I don't think I have in the other variety of mixes that are out in the back and side yard over here, because this side yard is in the backyard. The easterly side yard is almost exclusively up in the backyard. The gate comes all the way to the front of the house, whereas on the westerly side, the gate is all the way at the back of the house, and so that's a front side yard there. So this shaded area is a part of the backyard, and an incredibly sunny patch of our front yard on the side here is very sunny. It's one of the sunniest parts of our yard. We're really blessed that, close to half, maybe even close to 2/3 of our property in the back gets a lot of sunlight because we're not quite on the cardinal directions. In fact, we're more towards the secondary directions, southeast, southwest, etc. And that gives our yard exceptional sunlight. So we're really, really lucky. And with this almost completely shaded area, we have a huge variety. The majority of the backyard is very sunny. There's a more average type of a patch, and then you work into that almost completely shaded area. And our front yard, the area coming out of the backyard, is pretty heavily shaded, just a little kind of nook, and I'm going to make it look like a little storybook kind of a nook, not necessarily with all the little gnomes and things, but just the aspect, the feel of it, and it's already well started for me. So there's this pretty well shaded area, not quite as shaded. It gets dappled sunlight most of the day, but only the easterly and beginning westerly, it starts to get cut off as the day goes longer, so it doesn't get that really harsh westerly afternoon sun that comes in. We also have a maple tree that gives a little bit of shade from that in the front yard. That unfortunately probably is going to have to go. I really like the tree. We have to think about it. We know that the silver birch and the aspens that are over here just have to go. And they create a lot of shade in the morning, which is the more ideal shade. And what we'd like to do to bring back the shade on the west side, and whether we've managed to get the trees out or not, it's going to be a pretty costly project, several $1,000s, probably involve a crane and permits and all kinds of crazy, crazy lengths to get out these, probably as many as 10 at least 25 to 40 foot tall silver birch and aspen that are in a stand, pretty much straight line along our easterly front yard. The maple, as I said, will decide. It's encroaching on the house just a little bit. That's not really the problem. It probably contributed heavily to the water main when it broke prior to our purchasing the house. They had it all fixed. It had been, probably at least a year or two since that had taken place. But we're ever pushing having our lines break again between the aspen and silver birch, and the even stronger individual roots. The aspen and the silver birch are very prolific and strength in that, but they don't have the thick, almost cable style roots of the maple. So it's all damaging to all of those lines, and we'll have to decide if we're going to keep the maple as it's a more beneficial tree all around and not as damaging as the aspen and silver birch tend to be, but it probably needs to go too. So big project, and we're not going to be able to do that for at least a couple of years. We need to get the backyard completed, and then we're going to go into the front yard and get that more fully completed, although it's a lot further along already. Oh, and the last thing, I have this handy little seed shaker. I have found, though, that the shaking of the seeds, this whole idea of shaking the seeds, is relatively impractical. They don't fall out nicely together. The smaller ones fall out, and then the bigger ones kind of get trapped, and then you keep shifting them down and down. So what I think that something like this is useful for, because unless you're doing a huge property where you can use these largest openings, it doesn't work very well. And on a smaller property like what I'm doing, to have these huge openings would just be an excessive amount of seed. I don't need to go that heavily on my property. These get caught just massively. And of course, these are even bigger than the bigger round holes here. So I am more moving towards utilizing the bigger size and just shaking it into my hand, and that being a good way to both transport the seeds and to evenly distribute them. I really am finding that I like hand distributing of large area coverage as far as a residential property. Again, agricultural properties are a completely different kettle of fish, right? So that was really all I wanted to kind of put out there for you guys. And now let's just check our chat and see if Mr. Benny has any questions going yet. Looks like everybody's just saying hello. That's always so wonderful. Does anybody have any questions about whatever you guys are doing, any of the things I just talked about? Please just go ahead and shout them out, or Benny, please put them in the chat, of course, always.
I don't, not at the current moment.
Well, we'll wait and see if Benny puts any questions in the chat. We have a lot of things that are going to be transitioning here in Collectively Rewilding as we're moving forward. Of course, the biggest thing being that we're going to add a nonprofit element to Collectively Rewilding. And so that's a big project, and we're going to bring you guys all along with us, step by step, showing you how we do that, what the choices are, which of those choices we select and why, probably why someone might choose the other options that we don't select. All of these different pieces. We're also reorganizing how time is managed, and I believe that I'm going to be able to get that all worked out better and see a lot more consistency throughout Collectively Rewilding and its social media presence, which, as you all know, is a big part of growing any kind of audience these days. And now, with the new way that the time is being structured, we should have more time to dedicate to moving that along with the opportunity of the nonprofit element being added into that, where it doesn't just have to be free for Lesko Help members. Now Collectively Rewilding is free for all members. There's some contention, or how shall I say it? There's some disagreement between two people that I both consider business mentors. My official SBDC mentor, Jess Clifford, and Megan Pater, who regularly participates with what we're doing in all of this now. I've been working with her for, goodness, probably 3 years or close to it, 2.5 years, something along those lines. She's excellent. She's huge in the nonprofit world, huge into the nonprofit world, I should rephrase that. She is doing marvelous things all over the place, and we'll let her discuss those sometime in the future. So many plans right now. Goodness, I don't even know when we'll get to that. We have completely seeded except for about, I don't know, maybe 200 yards, or excuse me, 200 feet of the backyard that I still intend to get some seed in. I'm starting to see some seedlings scattered around. Yay, it's so exciting. I am worried we may have lost a patch in the back on the westerly part of the big swale. I did let that dry out one day. I just got busy with the communities, and oh, no worries, Benny. If you have any questions, just let us know. So they may have survived, but I did let it get drier than I wanted to, and I may have lost some of the seedlings. So we'll cross our fingers and hope, but in most other areas, I'm starting to see some activity and growth already, which is a little unexpected. I had been cautioning myself and telling myself to quit probably looking every day to see if there were any seeds, as it was a little early, but they are already showing up, and I'm so excited. I will add these few shade packages over here to what has already been out there. It was before I'd added anything else that I kind of just haphazardly threw some shade seeds from this opened package of the fairy morse over there. And I wasn't very consistent with my watering methods. I was just busy doing as much as I could in other places and didn't follow through. I do have some showing, and they're, of course, much further along than the rest that have been more recently planted. Close to an inch high, somewhere along that. Not huge, but definitely a little bit further along. And then I'll add these over the area that was already seeded that probably didn't have as much success as it should have, and the rest of the side runner bed that has already been previously established here on this property. It needs a little bit of work, get that put fully in place. One of the beams is kind of canted, and I've tried rolling it back in, and it just keeps rolling back. So it needs to have some additional soil in the bed, which was already part of the plan, and that will help to hold that in, see if we need any additional support to get the beam to lay correctly along that bed. Throw my seeds on there. I have still some purchased wood piece mulch, right? Wood pieces, different sizes, different grades of wood chip mulch, no dyed or yucky kinds of mulch like that. Nothing rubber, all natural, no dyes. And I like the lesser processed wood chips whenever I can get them. And of course, when you get the Get Wood Chip drops, they are very unprocessed. You can get the wood chips, yes, but they haven't been cleaned up. There's still the leaves, the sticks that you wouldn't necessarily see. We had rose bushes in our first and so far last drop from getchipdrop.com. And it's got huge pieces of what, it's technically a little bit like a chip, but something along like that big of a piece, about that big around, not, smooth, all rough. And you definitely see the unmanicured aspect of the wood chips that you get from getchipdrop.com. I love it. I think it's great. It'll provide wood chip coverage longer because it has less processing, less chipping down, and so it has more sturdiness just in the pieces themselves, as well as being larger. It will just take longer for them to decompose, continuously adding nutrients while they do that, but continuing that coverage for a lot longer period of time. So those are just some different things to consider when you're deciding how you're going to approach any natural wood mulch that you might come across or you might purchase, right? I haven't had a chance yet to try Tammy Larson's suggestion of contacting my electric company. In fact, I don't even have it on my list. Let me just add it. And I want to do that tomorrow. So I will let you guys know next week if I have any success with that. Goodness, there's just so much going on. Sometimes it's hard to keep it in a list in my head to talk about. Let's see. So I'm really excited to get back to working the dirt in the backyard, starting with getting some dirt for that garden bed that's running along the house. The next stage that I've decided I'm going to do isn't garden fun, but it's still something that needs to be done, and it'll move that dirt along. Our property has a lot of dip. It's not drastic, it's very nice and gradual, but it has a graded aspect to it, right? A small slope to the backyard. And on this westerly side, where our concrete pad ends, the soil is not only not reaching the top of the pad as it does around all the other sides, it is sloping away from it. And so I'm going to just start dumping that dirt right there. It's right next to the huge mound of dirt, and packing it as I go. It's not for the garden right now at all. It's just an area that's going to be used to transport the dirt and the wood chips back and forth, and I'm not worried about growing anything right there. Of course, we want to keep the weeds down, but packing that soil and constantly walking on it is going to accomplish a lot of that already. And so I'm going to try to not maybe perfectly level it out, but level it out quite a lot and take it more into the slope that is in the rest of the backyard so that it's not dipping down towards the front. We want that dipping down towards the back where we have all these water retaining structures, right? I doubt that I'll quite match what is already here, but I should get a lot further along towards that than where we are now, and it'll be some quick, rapid movement of the dirt. So I'm really going to start seeing some movement in that dirt pile, which will be really gratifying and motivating. It is hard to approach literal thousands of tons of dirt and moving as much of that by hand as possible. As I've mentioned, we're probably still going to have a pretty substantial pile come next spring, and we're going to look into buying the smallest possible mini excavator that you can get that can legitimately move dirt. So just so much to do. Tomorrow I will be spending a lot. Oh, and look, we've got some comments. Let's see if there are any questions in there. A lot more hellos. Such a wonderful, tight-knit community. I love it. Oh, goodness. I have decided, folks, that I'm going to bring somewhat of an element of the simple stitches that we had, where we tried to have a class about all of us, including myself, learning how to do different processes like mending clothes, perhaps making a pillow, or, doing some of these basic skill sets with the needle or different types of needles, all of these different fun things. And while I don't have the camera equipment to accomplish something like that yet, what I think would be kind of nice is just having a little mending circle where I try to get the camera focused as much as possible on what I'm doing and not worry about really showing my face. And we kind of just talk and whatever's going on in our lives, no particular purpose. It could be about gardening or the outdoors, or it could be about whatever you have going on, and just kind of hanging out and showing some of the things that I would like for everybody to have a little bit of access to, right? And fun, because nobody's on a perfection level. We're all approaching it more from that beginning stage. And I feel like that's an element that's missing in our online education style of a world. Well, when we would go to learn something in the physical world, we would be learning from someone who had more experience than we did. Generally, sometimes teachers really are teaching something they don't fully know, but they would generally have more experience and they would be showing that. But we would have other people all around us who were also learning and weren't advanced or experts or any of these types of kind of intimidating prospects. When you see somebody's garden that's just all together and perfect, and you're looking at a dead, bare patch of land, and you're like, how would I even begin to approach doing that? It is a little bit, I believe, intimidating. And so I really like that we're going to showcase how to go from nothing, essentially, to something wonderful. And in the long run, also showcasing these different elements that one could consider adding to a residential property to store water primarily. Of course, that is a more westerly concern. I think it does go maybe even over to Ohio area. You start seeing that cutoff as you go into the South and the Great Lakes there. There's a lot more water over in that portion of our country. Hawaii and Alaska also having a completely different type of water concerns. Hawaii actually can be in a drought if they don't receive rainwater. In a 2-week period, they're looking at drought and having to ship water in, and really think about shipping water to an island for a populace as large as what Hawaii has. So there are all these different types of concerns throughout the nation. And I've really tried to showcase that. I was thinking about this earlier. I've really tried to showcase that in our featured natural content creators. I can't tell you what it's like in Georgia, Alabama, and Louisiana, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, certainly not Alaska or Hawaii. I have a good understanding of the West, but even in that Midwest, I have no experience in even really visiting or any of that. I've told you guys before, I'm all about the West. I can't help it. It's been both by choice and by circumstance that I have always ended up over here in the western half of the United States. So with our content creators, I can't remember, I'm thinking that the Black Forager comes from Georgia, but she is down in those really nice, beautiful soils, a lot more water than what we experience here in the West generally. We do have 2 from California, and I really like that because the California Native Plant Society, they are not only an official, more accredited sort of a source, but they do show you a lot more beginning and into stages. They don't just show you immaculate all the time. They talk about how to get further. And of course, the other gardeners that you see, whether they're focused on here or not, we'll talk about it. I just think that California Native Plant Society is a little bit better at showing that, right? And so then you have Callie Kim, who has just a beautifully designed garden, and it is in that landscaped, manicured sense as what a garden would be, not like what we would talk about with a lawn and ornamental shrubbery and things like that. It's just a very well-designed, beautiful to look at, well-utilized gardening space. And she does expand on that. And so you do get to learn, but you see this just beautiful space. And I feel like when you don't have anything yet, that's really hard to try to approach it at that level. Next, you have Evergreen Seniors, and I don't think that they really talk about any one locality. They're talking more about fun do-it-yourself ideas from what I've seen, and ways to make it easier for those who have mobility issues, things of that nature, which I find really valuable for a large segment of our community, right, as a country, and eventually, hopefully, beyond. We have a little bit of that presence, not much yet. Gardenary, I don't know that she's mentioned yet where she's from. I'm guessing it's maybe somewhere west to Midwest. That's how the land feels, but it does feel a little bit similar to a new content creator that I haven't actually created a space for, but I plan to, the Millennium Gardener. He's really great, and he's all the way over in, I believe it's North Carolina. It's one of the Carolinas. So you have also the off-grid, and Michigan, MI Gardener, he's in Michigan. He is doing something that I do love, and he's doing something that I hope to be able to do with everyone at some much further point. And he has gotten his YouTube audience and his products and all of these pieces far enough along that he and his family and their volunteers, and goodness knows what his business structure is, all these things, they've just purchased a large farm, and they're going to have like a huge orchard with heirloom trees, and just, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But he is starting from the ground up there. And so you guys get to see this really big venture start from, yes, the ground up. Beautiful, beautiful philosophy. Again, he is in Michigan. So you have California, you have Michigan, you have North or South Carolina, and then drop down a little bit below here, and that's Greening the Desert. And this is my buddy. I love this guy. He's amazing. He used to have a really large, more political, spiritual presence in a variety of social media platforms, but he decided to stop doing what he had been doing in his career as like a robotics AI engineer. I hesitate to even try to say what he did over on the East Coast, over in Pennsylvania. And he still has a presence over there, family. He goes back and visits and gets some supplies and all these things. I can't keep that close an eye on what he's doing, but I take a peek in whenever I get a chance. Gerard Kenyatte Hayes, I can't remember if it's pluralized there or not. And he is greening the West Texas desert. So he went all the way from Pennsylvania over by our Millennium Gardener down to Texas. Totally different climates. I'm here in Utah. I would love to see content come across from Alaska and Hawaii. And of course, now that we're opening up our membership as the nonprofit element for free, we don't have to concentrate in the same way on gaining our members. They're going to come in a little bit more organically. I have to figure out how to make Collectively Rewilding public. And so if you notice your plan changes, if you're somebody who pays attention to that kind of thing, I think I have to take it off of what it is and transform it into something weird. And I'm not sure. Mighty Networks is very user-friendly. It's an amazingly manipulatable platform. However, sometimes it gets a little technical and you have to do some research and get that figured out. And so when I get that public, that'll be another piece. Continuing on with the organic outreach that I do, we should start seeing people popping in more and more, which is beautiful. Then I can concentrate on getting us some more content creators out there doing their own thing, more towards that organic lifestyle. I really want to be open as long as they have the minimum of what would be considered organic standardization, right, which does use some chemical lab-created intervention processes. However, they're specified and they have to be only up to a certain amount. So it is better than your general agriculture and what you see on your grocery store shelves. But I do want you to understand organic as a label does still have chemical lab created intervention and fertilization that is allowed. Not all people or brands that have gained that organic certification utilize chemical intervention and fertilizers, but they can if they choose and still gain that label. So we're on the complete opposite side. We do not want to use any sort of chemical lab created intervention or fertilizer. We want to try to do it completely without it and be able to share those results. I believe we're going to have tremendous success. It is harder to translate from a small operation like what we're putting together to a large agricultural operation, and I understand that. I don't know that large agriculture is really the best solution for our continuing future as a species, and we'll tear into that more and more as we continue on. I don't know that we can do anything else than big ag either. So it's this scale that we as a species need to try to figure out how we want to approach a future and try to maintain the possibility of a future. Because when we talk about environmentalism, as I've probably mentioned before, it really is quite a selfish endeavor. We don't look at it like that. Most of us who care about the environment, no matter where we are on our political spectrum or how we go about caring about that environment, the truth is, if we don't have an environment that is capable of sustaining human life, we fail as a species. And so when we talk about environmentalism, really what we're talking about is trying to preserve an environment that is capable of sustaining human life, because that's the environment we know and want to continue. However, it's more than that. It's how we continue as a species. So it's a really important discussion, and there are a lot of different viewpoints on it. And I really want you guys to have as large a perspective as possible within that organic idea here in our sphere. And then we also, of course, share those articles with you that talk about things that do involve the chemical and lab intervention type manipulation of our natural environment in things like rewilding news around the world, but more in agricultural innovation around the world. You'll see a little bit in both. There's a bleed over in most things. People that have honey production typically have some sort of garden. You know, there's all these things that in the agricultural world touch each other, as they should. That's the cycle and circle of life, right? So much always to talk about. Let me just make sure there haven't been any questions in the chat there. Is there a proper way to use compost in the backyard? There's going to be a whole bunch of people that'll tell you that their process is the proper way. I think the proper way is the way that works for you. And so we've shared quite a bit on compost over time in here, Benny. Let's just look up general compost, and that will be a great place to go to look at what you're interested in and how you want to approach composting. So here is a new one. I think, yep, Miss Tammy shared this about a week ago. This is mushroom composting. This is something I'm completely unfamiliar with, and I have pulled it up. I think I've showed you guys, but I have my whole Tammy's tab over here, material that she's shared with us that I would like to look at more closely. And so mushroom composting is one of those. So let's go ahead and I'll add your name here, Benny, so that you can look at that when you have a moment and you're ready to start digging into how you think composting should be approached. The way we do it at our property is pretty slapdash. The girls and I throw the compost pieces on there. We've added what we need to from the browns. We've added garden soil onto it to keep things even there. We've added recycled potting soil from container gardens, all these beautiful things. Threw it out there. My husband, I guess, has been rotating it. I didn't even think he had been, which it will still work. A compost heap does not have to be cycled, doesn't have to be manipulated in order for it to compost. The difference is that it will take a lot longer to compost if you're not cycling that material in some way, turning it over and taking the bottom material up to the top and such. It'll take longer, right? And so ours is going along quicker than I thought, because I just found out this last week that my husband has been, every couple of weeks going out and turning it. Now, if you really want fast turnover, there are things that Callie Kim has done, and I'm not sure if I have them here in the community, but you can check out her channel on YouTube and just search composting, and she talks about fast turnover and how to have some really fast compost turnover so that it turns from the pieces that you've put together as your compost pile into that lovely, gorgeous brown gold, really, right? When you get into the forest and the more natural, it's almost a black in color. When you're talking compost, it's more a rich, chestnutty, gorgeous, soft hue, right? And so those are just a few thoughts to throw out at you. There is no right way, and anybody tells you that there is a right way is probably going to have a lot of things that they think their way is the right way, right? There are a lot of ways to do composting. What is compost tea? That's another excellent one from Miss Tammy. I want to look into this. And when Ken was with us last week, I'm not sure if you're here today or not, it doesn't look like it. When he mentioned having his little bucket or barrel or whatever of water, and then he would put his weeds in it and let them soak. That destroys the seeds. Even a fully hardened, matured seed is just continuously soaked in water, unless it's something special that likes that kind of an environment, it's going to destroy the seed's capability of reproducing. So it is such a beautiful idea, and I want to test it out. I was so excited when he shared that with us, and that would be something I would not guess is in this article, but I don't know. I have only looked into compost tea on the surface level. I haven't been able to tear into the subject too much yet. It's one of my later stages. I've got to get the garden together, and before I couldn't really explore it. I know you can compost in apartments and things like that, but we moved so often when we were in that stage that it just wasn't realistic. So let me tag you here, Benny, and then I'll see if there's not a couple. I know I've shared some. Vanessa's asked about it for sure, at least. And I think maybe our newer member, and she had something with an R, Rwanda, no, something kind of like that, though, I think. Rwanda, maybe? And she asked about it just last week. This is a really super specialty piece. I'll let you decide if you want to do that. Here you go. Here's a more generalized one. And here's one. We'll do these two for you, Benny, and that's going to give you a very well-rounded view and let you decide what you want to set up as your composting method, okay? And see, they're saying the proper compost. Now, I really do like the spruce. However, I've seen a multitude of recipes or ratios for compost And I doubt that you would be unsuccessful with any of it. Rowana, that is it. Okay. And so this is an excellent one for you here as well, Benny. All right. Great. Let me just check out the rest of those wonderful things. The East, that's funny. Benny's representing the East. All right, Benny. All right. We'll give you some Easterly love over there. Yes, Massachusetts. I do remember. I do. Oh, and Miss Rose is more over there towards you. I finally remembered. She's in Missouri. Yay, those M states. Gosh, they throw me. The only M state we have over here is Montana. So I love the way your state is spelled. Massachusetts. It's such a fun word. Oh my goodness. Okay, I had dead grass, leaves, branches, and other things in the backyard that has been broken down over the years. That's wonderful. Are you just going to leave it where it's at, or are you going to take that and use it in other places? What is your plan for your area that has this material in it? Yes, that was really neat. I'm really grateful that Kenda shared that with us too, Benny. Excuse me just one second, guys. I rest. Goodness. All right. Just East Side love. More East Side love. Well, that's wonderful, guys. It is time to shut it down. I think it's probably going to be too late to feed out there, but I'm going to give it a shot. I have pretty good night vision, thank goodness. My poor husband and his children, my children, the eyesight was improved, but the night sight was not. So I have to lead all three of them around if it's ever dark. It's kind of hilarious. It's like a mother leading the blind father and her two little ducklings. It's pretty cute. All right, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful evening. We will be back with you and a wonderful weekend. I believe it's Memorial Day weekend. I'm so bad about holidays. Let's check out our calendar, and we will be back with you on Memorial Day. Yes, Memorial Day. For the official holiday, we'll come in and do some exploring of organic soil and how to regenerate that. And that will be at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 p.m. Mountain, 8:30 p.m. Central, and 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you all there. And I hope you guys all have a beautiful weekend out in the garden or the forest or the ocean, wherever it is that you spend your time outdoors. Good night, everyone. Please feel free to unmute and say good night.
Good night, everybody. See you tomorrow.
Oh, goodness. Everybody must be in. Oh, I don't have my speakers on. Oops, that was my mistake.
Good night, Sabrina.
Good night, Charity. I hope you guys weren't talking earlier and I missed it. I was trying to keep an eye on that. Everybody enjoy your evening.
Good night. Blessings.
You too.
Bye, Vanessa. Bye, Charity. Benny.